Hey you. Yes, I'm talking to you, the one who kept the fire alive even when they refused to bring the kindling. Let's talk about what they don't tell you about loyalty. About patience. About giving someone chance after chance while your own soul quietly dims in the background. You know that feeling, don't you? Welcome to Mind Chief. A safe space for people who want truth, clarity, and real-world guidance. You know that feeling, don't you? That moment when you finally look at your life, really look at it, and realize the fire you've been protecting, the one you kept feeding with your energy, your hope, your relentless belief, was being slowly smothered. Not by accident, not by circumstance, but by someone who couldn't or wouldn't match your flame. And here's the part that cuts deeper than the disappointment itself. It wasn't because you lacked passion. It wasn't because you weren't enough. It wasn't even because you weren't trying hard enough. It was because you were trying to ignite something that never had the willingness to burn with you. You kept showing up, kept giving, kept pouring energy into a space that only knew how to take. And what did you get in return? Hesitation, half-truths, mixed signals wrapped in just enough charm to keep you guessing. Emotional crumbs tossed your way like you should be grateful for the bare minimum. And every single time you told yourself the same lie. Maybe they're just going through something. Maybe they need more time. Maybe if I'm just a little more patient, a little more understanding. But patience without reciprocity isn't love. It's slow emotional starvation. You weren't asking for the moon. You weren't demanding perfection. You were asking for consistency, for honesty, for effort that matched your own. And someone, maybe multiple someones, responded with delay, with avoidance, with that maddening silence that says everything without saying a word. So you did what people like you do. You retreated inward. You started holding back your truth just to avoid conflict, just to keep the peace, just to not be too much or too intense, or whatever label they used to make you feel like your needs were unreasonable. You swallowed your thoughts, minimized your feelings, stayed quiet when you should have roared. And every time you did that, every single time you chose their comfort over your own truth, you chipped away at your own fire, piece by piece, moment by moment, until one day you woke up and didn't recognize the dimmed version of yourself staring back. But here's what they didn't count on. That fire? It's still there. It's been there this whole time, buried under layers of self-sacrifice and suppressed truth. And now it's done being quiet, not in some loud, explosive, burn-the-world-down kind of way, but in that subtle, undeniable, soul-deep way where you can feel the shift before you can even name it. Your soul is whispering, and this time, you're actually listening. I can't do this version of myself anymore. And you know what? You shouldn't have to, because the version of you that tiptoed around your own needs, the one who made yourself smaller so someone else could feel bigger, that version just expired. You're not renewing that subscription. You're not signing up for another season of emotional uncertainty and one-sided effort. The truth is starting to land now, isn't it? You're not stuck because of what happened. You're stuck because of how long you stayed loyal to a story that stopped serving you years ago. You've been replaying the same thoughts, analyzing the same patterns, trying to protect yourself from disappointment by overthinking every possible outcome. But the very thing you've been avoiding, the ending, the closure, the walking away, is the exact thing that's been draining your life force. And when you finally stop running from that truth and look it dead in the eye, you see it clearly. Someone wanted the perks of your presence without the responsibility of showing up for you. They moved in and out of your life like a flickering light, charming when it suited them, invisible when honesty or effort was required. You kept giving chances out of hope, out of loyalty, out of heart. They kept operating from impulse, ego, and emotional instability. And their chaos, it forced you into something you didn't expect. Clarity. Their inconsistency sharpened your discernment like a blade. Their inability to meet you where you stand pushed you toward a version of yourself you should have stepped into a long time ago. So let's be honest about what's really happening here. This isn't about them anymore. This is about you finally waking up to the fact that you've outgrown the role you were playing. The accommodating one. The understanding one. The one who always made excuses for someone else's lack of effort. That role, it's suffocating you. And your soul is done pretending it fits. Let's talk about the part no one warns you about. The part where clarity doesn't feel like relief at first. It feels like grief. Because once you see the pattern clearly, you can't unsee it. Once you recognize how one-sided it's been, you can't go back to pretending it was mutual. And that realization, it lands heavy. You start to notice all the times you justified their behavior. All the moments you talked yourself out of your own feelings. All the red flags you painted green because you wanted to believe in potential instead of dealing with reality. You gave them the benefit of the doubt, over and over and over again. And they gave you just enough to keep you hoping, just enough to keep you invested, just enough to make you think, maybe next time will be different. But next time never came, did it? Because people who operate from inconsistency don't suddenly become consistent. They just get better at making you feel like you're the one expecting too much. And here's the kicker, you started believing it. You started wondering if maybe you were too demanding, too sensitive, too much. But let me tell you something that's going to hit different. Wanting someone to show up for you the way you show up for them is not too much. It's the baseline. It's the standard. It's the absolute minimum requirement for any real connection. And the fact that you had to lower your expectations just to keep the peace, that's not compromise. That's self-abandonment. You abandoned your own needs to accommodate someone else's limitations. And now, you're done doing that because something inside you is shifting. You're pulling yourself out of emotional survival mode, not dramatically, not loudly, but steadily. You're rebuilding your sense of self, not by force, not through affirmations or fake it till you make it energy, but through realization, through finally understanding that the love you've been waiting for from someone else is the exact love you've been withholding from yourself. You've been so busy trying to earn someone else's consistency that you forgot to give yourself your own. But that's changing now. You're noticing that you no longer respond to the same old patterns with the same old emotions. You're healing from abandonment wounds by refusing to abandon yourself. You're learning to give yourself the validation, attention, and love you once kept waiting on someone else to provide. And the more you detach from what drained you, the more you notice the quiet signs of recovery. Clearer thinking, stronger boundaries, cleaner energy, a calmer nervous system, fewer emotional crashes, fewer spirals, fewer moments where you're left wondering what you did wrong. Because you're finally understanding, you didn't do anything wrong. You just loved someone who wasn't ready to love you back in the way you deserved. And that's on them, not you. Life starts sending you reminders now, small ones at first. A song that hits at the perfect moment. A conversation that validates what you've been feeling. A moment of stillness where you realize you haven't thought about them in hours, then days. And it doesn't hurt anymore. It just is. You start to see that the path you were waiting on was never meant to unfold the way you imagined. Sometimes the universe blocks a plan not to punish you, but to redirect you towards something that actually aligns with your power. You're shedding old expectations, closing out timelines that were overdue, reclaiming a future that doesn't depend on someone else finally getting their act together. Because here's the truth they never taught you. Your life isn't supposed to be on hold waiting for someone else to be ready. Your happiness isn't supposed to be conditional on whether or not they finally see your worth. Your peace isn't supposed to require someone else's approval. And the moment you stop making your emotional well-being dependent on external validation, that's when everything changes. That's when you stop being a passenger in your own life and become the driver. And then, without forcing it, without chasing it, without begging for it, your emotional reset begins. You start to feel again. But this time it's not pain you're drowning in. It's clarity rising. Your heart starts to open in a clean, honest way. Not because someone came back. Not because they finally apologized or acknowledged what they put you through. But because you came back. You returned to yourself. You're reconnecting with your flow, with your intuition, with your actual desires. Not your fears, not your wounds, not the loneliness that made you settle. You're remembering what it feels like to move with purpose instead of hesitation. To speak your truth instead of swallowing it to keep someone comfortable. To trust yourself instead of waiting for someone else to tell you you're not crazy for feeling what you feel. This is rebirth in its purest form. Not glamorous, not filtered, not neatly packaged with a bow, but real, raw, and undeniably yours. You're not the same person who entered that connection. You're not even the same person who stayed in it hoping things would change. You've evolved through the fire they tried to dim. And now, you're the flame itself. Untouchable, undimmable, unshakable. Your life expands the moment you stop carrying emotional weight that was never meant to stay with you. The guilt, not yours. The responsibility for their growth, not yours. The burden of making it work when they weren't even trying, not yours. You're stepping into a phase where your peace cannot be negotiated, where your voice cannot be silenced, where your heart cannot be controlled by anyone else's inconsistency. This is your turning point, your alignment, your return to yourself. And you're not going back, because once you taste freedom from emotional manipulation, even the subtle kind disguised as complicated or timing, you can't go back to the cage. Once you feel what it's like to honor your own needs without guilt, you can't go back to shrinking. Once you remember your worth, you can't go back to begging for crumbs. You're done with the flickering lights. You're done with the mixed signals. You're done with the people who love you only when it's convenient. And you know what the most powerful part is? You're not bitter about it. You're not angry. You're not vengeful. You're not wishing harm on anyone. You're just done. And that kind of done, it's final. It's not a door left cracked. It's not maybe someday. It's not let's see what happens. It's a clean, clear, irreversible close. And on the other side of that door, you're building something new. Something that doesn't require you to dim your light. Something that doesn't make you question your worth. Something that doesn't leave you wondering if you're too much or not enough. You're building a life where you are the standard, where your energy is protected, where your peace is prioritized, where your fire burns exactly as bright as it's meant to, and anyone who can't handle the heat, they can step back, because you're not here to make anyone comfortable anymore. You're here to be fully, unapologetically, powerfully yourself. And that version of you, she's not waiting for permission. He's not waiting for validation. They're not waiting for anyone to finally see them, because they see themselves. And that's all that matters. You're done being the one who stays when everyone else leaves. You're done being loyal to people who were never loyal to your well-being. You're stepping into a version of yourself that doesn't need to be chosen, because you've already chosen you. And that choice, it's the most important one you'll ever make. This is your moment. Your fire is back, not because someone finally fanned the flames, but because you remembered you've always been the flame. They didn't extinguish you. They just reminded you what happens when you waste your light on people who live in darkness by choice. And now you're taking that light and shining it exactly where it belongs. On yourself, on your future, on the life you're building without them. They kept you waiting while you kept yourself burning, but the wait is over. The fire is yours, and you're never dimming it for anyone again. This is your turning point, your alignment, your return to power. And trust me when I say this, the universe has been waiting for you to remember who you are. And now that you have, everything changes. Take care of your energy, move with intention, and if you want more grounded clarity like this, make sure you're subscribed before you head out. See you in the next one.